1. Good afternoon, esteemed ministers of the Chan'an government. The various warlords were engaged in constant warfare, busy as ever. Yet I, Grand Tutor Dong, lived in Chang'an with a life more comfortable than that of a deity. Why? Because I held the emperor's trump card in my hands, and I had my capable, handsome adopted son Lu Bu, equivalent to having both an army at one's disposal and personal bodyguards. I was truly the undisputed top ruler of Chang'an, moving with ease and bearing an extraordinary presence. Indeed, I was full of vigor and utterly invincible. People often ask me, Grandmaster Dong, what is the secret to your success? I answer frankly, I follow my own set of life principles. I lie down whenever possible, avoid sitting when I can sit, and refrain from moving when I can remain still. My focus is on a lifestyle that promotes wellness and longevity. Many laugh at me, asking, Grandmaster Dong, is this even a dream? I reply, this is the ultimate dream. We have fought battles all our lives to earn such power and status. Wasn't it all for the sake of being able to live contentedly without striving? Let me tell you, this is not about slacking off. It is the highest pursuit in life, the ultimate state of existence. Yet that cunning old fox Wang Sidu had devised a beauty trap against me and even stirred up trouble at the Fengyi Pavilion. My long-desired life of ease was finally betrayed. Recently, Dong Zhuo, the undisputed dominant figure in Chang'an, received groundbreaking news. Sun Jian, the formidable Jiandong tiger who relentlessly pursued the Western Liang forces, had fallen victim to an ambush during his assault on Jingzhou, suffering defeat and death, ultimately meeting his end in battle. Upon hearing this news, Dong Zhuo slapped his thighs so hard it resounded loudly. He laughed so wildly that his hands trembled uncontrollably, and the luminous wine cup in his hand nearly slipped from his grasp and fell to the ground. Squinting his shrewd eyes with an air of triumphant satisfaction, this time we've won big. He turned to his advisor Li Ru and asked, Hey, Li Ru, after Sun Jian's death, where are those little rascals? How old are they, and do they have the capability to take over? Li Ru quickly stepped forward and replied, Your Excellency, his eldest son Sun Su is only 17 years old, he's still inexperienced, and the others are even wearing open-crotch trousers. They're mere novices who simply cannot achieve anything significant. Upon hearing this, the heavy burden in Dong Zhuo's heart instantly lifted, and a wild smile spread across his face. 17 years old? Ha, a mere child whose hair isn't even fully grown yet already thinking of getting involved in the world? He probably doesn't even know where the back door of our Meiwu lies. What a fool! From that moment on, Dong Zhuo completely lost himself, becoming so unrestrained that he no longer recognized his own mother. With a wave of his hand, he immediately bestowed upon himself a title exuding immense authority, Shangfu. What did this term mean? Translated, it means the emperor's godfather, a title that sounded even more prestigious than that of imperial relatives. From then on, his demeanor and conduct matched those of the Son of Heaven. He carried the imperial carriage and a full ceremonial entourage, and even his clothing colors were identical to those of the emperor. In modern terms, Dong Zhuo had ingrained the concept of overstepping authority into his very being. His daily mantra was, as long as I'm not embarrassed, others will be. Wandering through Chang'an, he was 10 times more arrogant and domineering than Lao Ai had been in his time. After entering Chang'an, Dong Zhuo wielded immense power over the empire and extensively granted titles to his relatives and allies. His younger brother Dong Min, who had never achieved military merits, was promoted to Lieutenant General and awarded the title of Marquis. His nephew Dong Huang, young and impetuous, was appointed palace attendant and concurrently commanded the imperial guards, entering and exiting the palace gates as if in private residences. All members of Dong Zhuo's clan and associates, regardless of virtue, wisdom, or age, were in theft as marquises, each receiving fiefs totaling thousands of assets. Even distant relatives who had never met him before brought letters and sought employment. Dong Zhuo immediately granted them official positions and bestowed seals upon them. In the imperial court, members of the Dong family sat side by side, with former subordinates of the Western Liang regime filling both interior and exterior positions. People of the time remarked privately, the Dong family has seen one marquis after another. Were these all achieved through military campaigns? The scholarly Ru was renowned for his strategic wisdom. Once, in a private room, he advised, the Grand Tutor's authority commands respect throughout the land, yet public discourse is, this may tarnish your reputation. Upon hearing this, Dong Zhuo laughed heartily, slammed his hand on the table, and rose with wide eyes. Reputation? With my blade and sword, I forged this empire. Those pedantic scholars, what else can they do but chatter idly? The Dong clan deserves its wealth and honor. How could we allow others to interfere? Li Ru fell silent, bowed respectfully, and withdrew without daring to speak further. Dong Zhuo also selected a fertile land 250 li west of Chang'an, undertook extensive construction projects, and built a defensive fortress named Meiwu. He mobilized 250,000 laborers from across the empire who worked day and night to compact soil and construct the city walls. The fortress was as tall and sturdy as Chang'an itself. Its walls stretched for several miles, with crenellations reaching into the clouds and flags visible from afar. Within the fortress stood hundreds of palaces featuring intricately carved eaves and painted beams, resplendent with gold and brilliance, showcasing the pinnacle of architectural craftsmanship. Granaries were arranged in rows, storing enough grain and beans to sustain provisions for 20 years, and military arsenals were vast, containing armor, spears, and halberds piled high like mountains. Additionally, he selected 800 beautiful women from among the populace to reside in the rear courtyard, where they wore luxurious robes and enjoyed exquisite delicacies during banquets and festivities. Whenever Dong Zhuo visited Meiwu, he would remain there for either 10 days or even a month without returning. The court officials and ministers would all bid him farewell outside the main gate, bowing respectfully while keeping their eyes down, not daring to look up. When his carriage passed, a grand procession of 1,000 chariots was followed by banners that obscured the sun and golden battle axes gleaming in the sky. The scale of the ceremony surpassed even that of the emperor's own procession. At one point, as Emperor Xian's carriage happened to pass by, he saw the towering city walls of Meiwu from afar and exclaimed, "Can this city, built by the Grand Tutor, stand alongside my Chang'an?" Those around him trembled with fear, none dared to respond. 2. Yet Dong Zhuo's brutality lay particularly in his disregard for human life, treating slaughter as mere amusement. One day, he convened a grand banquet at the Hung Gate for his officials. As the wine flowed freely and cups clattered amidst the revelry, soldiers suddenly brought hundreds of surrendered troops from northern territories. Dong Zhuo's eyes gleamed with ferocity. He slammed the table and rose abruptly, his voice resonating like a bell. "Today's feast lacks any entertainment to accompany the wine. How tragic! Bring these men here so you may all have some amusement." Before he finished speaking, a mob of soldiers surged forward, driving the surrendered soldiers into the hall. Knives and axes descended indiscriminately. Some had their hands and feet severed, blood staining the steps and crimsoning the floor. Others had their eyes gouged out or feet amputated, their screams shaking the eaves. Still others had their tongues cut or ears torn, their bodies dismembered and scattered across the ground. Even worse, some threw themselves into boiling cauldrons, their flesh scorched and rotten. The rumbling of boiling water and their agonized cries echoed through the heavens, leaving all who heard them with hearts torn apart. The officials in the hall stood with deathly pallor, their chopsticks fell and cups overturned. Some of the more frail ones even collapsed to the ground, vomiting violently, releasing foul-smelling vomitus that filled the room with chaos. Only Dong Zhuo sat calmly on his armchair, raising his cup as if nothing had happened, continuing to talk, laugh, drink, and eat with an expression as composed as ever, as if what unfolded before him were merely a performance of theatrical entertainment. After a moment, he turned to Li Ru and said, "These mournful yet powerful sounds are far more moving than any music or dance. For future banquets, we should select performers whose voices are particularly resonant and clear, for greater enjoyment." Li Ru bowed his head in agreement. Among those seated was Minister Wang Yun, whose face was ashen blue and whose hands trembled like autumn leaves. Noticing this, Dong Zhuo laughed and asked, "Why have you paused, Minister Wang? Could it be that the dishes are not suitable for your palate?" Wang Yun suppressed his grief and fear, responding softly, "Your servant. I've caught a cold and am feeling unwell in my stomach." Dong Zhuo clapped his hands in laughter and dispersed the gathering with great merriment. The officials, feeling as if walking on thin ice, all withdrew promptly. One day, Dong Zhuo gathered his officials at the provincial assembly hall. After several rounds of wine and a feast featuring 5 varieties of dishes, Lu Bu suddenly appeared anxious, rushed swiftly into the hall, and whispered a few words in his ear. Upon hearing this, Dong Zhuo furrowed his thick eyebrows tightly, a murderous intent flashed in his tiger-like eyes, but he quickly regained his smile with a voice that shook the roof tiles. "So that's it. They're nothing but rats, worth no mention. Then he barked sternly, "Feng Xian, arrest Zhang Wen." Lu Bu responded immediately, darting into the hall like an eagle hunting a rabbit, and dragged Grand Minister Zhang Wen to the ground. Zhang Wen cried out in innocence, "This old minister has received the state's grace throughout my life. My loyalty is beyond doubt. How could you, Grand Tutor, dare to threaten me?" Dong Zhuo sneered, sharp fangs. "You secretly colluded with Yuan Gonglu, plotting to assassinate me. Do you think I'm unaware? The letter is here, what more can you argue?" Zhang Wen still felt humiliated, while Lu Bu had already dragged him out of the hall. Shortly afterward, a servant entered carrying a vermilion tray containing a shocking sight, the head of Zhang Wen. His hair and beard remained damp, his face contorted in horror with visible shock, his eyes were wide open, expressing utter defiance. Upon seeing this, all officials were seized with fear. One elderly minister collapsed from terror, his breath faint, another cowered wet his trousers with urine, staining the floor and refusing to move. The entire hall fell silent, filled only by the sound of gasping breaths and clenching teeth. Dong Zhuo slowly raised his chopsticks, took a bite of meat, chewed it leisurely, and said calmly, "Zhang Wen's treasonous plot was detected by my son Feng Xian before it could unfold. Thus, he was punished according to the law to uphold court discipline. If you officials remain steadfast in your loyalty, your heads will be safe. The wine is nearly cold, why don't you drink?" The officials trembled as they accepted their orders, their hands shaking like rags. They spilled wine onto their robes without realizing it. After the banquet ended, the ministers fled the hall like rats. Some whispered under the corridor, "Is this even a court? This is nothing but a tiger's den." Upon hearing this, Dong Zhuo laughed instead of angering. He drank his cup dry, threw it to the ground with a metallic clink, and declared, "A tiger's den? Your lives mean nothing to me, just a few coins." At that time, in the city of Chang'an, no one walked at night, not even those who were out on their way would pick up lost items. Truly, no one dared to step outside their homes. When the common people heard of Dong Zhuo's name, even children did not dare cry at night. Dong Zhuo, believing that the empire was now secure and that Sun Jian had died, what was there to worry about Sun Tzu, merely a young infant? Thus, he drank wine day and night at Mei Wu, surrounded by concubines and mistresses, holding them close on all sides, considering himself the heavenly son of peace entitled to enjoy eternal blessings. Little did they know that the blood flowing outside the Hangman Gate and the still warm heads found on the provincial platforms had already quietly planted a blade of vengeance in the heart of every person. On one hand, Dong Zhuo wielded absolute power in Chang'an, driving luxury cars and residing in magnificent mansions daily, enjoying the highest level privileges befitting a grand tutor. On the other hand, Minister of Works Wang Yun was utterly plunged into despair and indignation. As a long-serving loyal minister of the Han dynasty, Wang Yun watched Dong Zhuo relentlessly persecute officials and disrupt court affairs, his heart racing like an ant on a hot pan, immersed in a state of intense anxiety. That day after the court session, upon returning to his residence, memories of Dong Zhuo's arrogant demeanor, his proclaimed "I am the #1 ruler under heaven," grew increasingly distressing, driving him to the brink of mental collapse. Late at night, as the moon rose high in the sky, he remained tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Finally, leaning on his cane, he strolled slowly into the rear garden to clear his mind. Standing beside the tea-blossom trellis, he let out a long sigh toward the heavens, tears streaming down uncontrollably, a scene strikingly reminiscent of Huan from Empresses in the Palace, who, feeling wronged, could only weep before the moon, her face etched with the words, "I, your subject, cannot do this." As Wang Yun wept bitterly, his emotions reaching their peak, he suddenly heard someone sighing beside the peony pavilion. The sound was quite pleasant, soft and melodious, like that of a young girl. A thought struck him, who's sighing here in the middle of the night? Could it be the mansion's maid engaged in some office romance, harboring some secret concerns? He quietly approached, hid behind a tree, and saw that it was the mansion's courtesan, Tiao Chan. This Tiao Chan, only 28 years old, was exceptionally beautiful, so stunning that she could make fish sink and wild geese fall, making the moon shine dimmer and flowers blush in shame. Not only did she possess remarkable beauty, but her singing and dancing talents were also outstanding. Wang Yun always treated her like his own daughter, considering her the family's key cultivation candidate. After observing her for a long time, Wang Yun couldn't help coughing and shouted loudly, "You wretch! You stayed awake at midnight, sighing and lamenting here. Could you be having an affair behind my back?" His words instantly transformed the atmosphere from a serene moonlit conversation into a tense confrontation. Diao Chan was startled. She immediately knelt down, trembling violently, and pleaded, "Your Excellency, spare my life. I dare not have any affair. I haven't even held a man's hand." Wang Yun wore a stern expression and activated the leadership accountability procedure. "Since there's no personal grudge involved, why are you sighing here in the middle of the night? Provide me with a reasonable explanation." Diao Chan raised her head, her eyes filled with tears, and said plaintively, "Your Excellency, I have been nurtured by your grace for many years. You taught me songs and dances and treated me like your own daughter. This debt of gratitude I could never repay, not even if I were to perish." She continued, "Recently, I've noticed your Excellency's constant frown. There must be some important state matter at hand, but I didn't dare to inquire further. Tonight, seeing your Excellency restless, I too grew anxious and distressed, which is why I couldn't help sighing, and unfortunately, your Excellency witnessed it. Should your Excellency ever require my assistance, with just one command, I would gladly serve you without hesitation and absolutely comply with any arrangement." Upon hearing these words, Wang Yun's previously gloomy eyes lit up instantly. It was as if he had seen a K-line chart showing the stock market rebounding from its bottom. He suddenly struck the ground forcefully with his cane, his beard trembling with excitement. Heaven has eyes. Who would have thought that the core competitiveness for saving the Han Dynasty, a complete mess, would be you, this young girl? Come, follow me to the painting pavilion. Let's hold a closed-door meeting of the core senior leadership. Diao Chan hurriedly followed Wang Yun into the pavilion. As soon as they entered, Wang Yun dismissed all the maids and servants as if guarding against a thief. After confirming there were no eavesdropping devices, he helped Diao Chan to the main seat and knelt down with a futon, performing the standard 9-kata ritual. This sudden reverse move terrified Diao Chan so utterly that she immediately knelt down as well, shouting in panic, "Your Excellency, what are you doing? You've killed me!" "Let's talk things through calmly, don't resort to this kind of moral coercion." As Wang Yun wiped his tears, he launched into a brainwashing-style speech. "Child, you must show compassion for the common people struggling in dire straits across the land. That treacherous villain Dong Zhuo, driven by ambitious ambitions to seize the throne, faces a court filled with civil and military officials, most of whom are mere PPT writers, utterly incapable of confronting him. However, my thorough investigation revealed that Dong Zhuo has an adopted son named Lu Bu, the strongest warrior on the server's combat rankings list. Yet these father and son share a fatal flaw: they are both extremely lustful. This is their Achilles' heel." Wang Yun paused for a moment, then lowered his voice and unveiled his ultimate plan. "I've devised an ultra-secret chain strategy. First, betroth you to Lu Bu and offer him a grand promise. Second, present you to Dong Zhuo and let him reap the benefits. You must exploit the intense tension between father and son, engage in fierce maneuvering, sow discord, and ultimately drive Lu Bu to defect in your favor and eliminate Dong Zhuo. By removing this great villain and restoring the Han Dynasty's rule, you will become the foremost hero of the Han Empire. This S-level top-secret mission can only be carried out by you. Do you wish to accept this assignment?" After hearing this, Diao Chan's gaze shifted from initial terror to unwavering determination. She took a deep breath and wiped away her tears, as if having instantly transformed from a novice into an elite agent. With solemnity, she declared, "Your Excellency, your kindness toward me is immeasurable. You raised me since childhood. This debt of gratitude fuels my greatest motivation. I've already pledged. I'll risk everything to assist you. Rest assured, I'll strictly follow your instructions, even if it means perishing utterly. I won't reveal the slightest detail and will maintain absolute secrecy." Upon hearing this, Wang Yun was moved to tears and promptly bowed deeply before Diao Chan. The weight on his heart finally lifted, and he thought to himself, "This is confirmed. The Han Dynasty is saved. I'll no longer suffer insomnia or hair loss daily." This risk investment proved to be a wise bet. Early the next morning, Wang Yun meticulously executed his chain strategy. He first lavished a fortune, drawing upon his family's longhouse's finest pearls and hiring Chang'an's finest craftsmen to craft a gleaming, exquisitely luxurious golden crown overnight. Upon completion, Wang Yun secretly dispatched it to Lu Bu's residence. Lu Bu, known for his greed and vanity, was a typical beauty enthusiast and equipment enthusiast. When he saw the dazzling golden crown, his eyes widened instantly. He erupted in joy, thinking to himself, is this Minister Wang really out of the blue? Suddenly delivering me this SSR-level top-tier equipment, must there be some favor in store? As the saying goes, when you have someone on your side, you're never alone. Lu Bu immediately decided to personally visit Wang Yun's residence to express his gratitude and uncover what this cunning old fox was up to. Wang Yun had long anticipated Lu Bu's arrival and had prepared a sumptuous banquet of fine wine and dishes to await his visit. As soon as Lu Bu arrived, Wang Yun personally went out to greet him with such warmth as if meeting his long-lost father. He took Lu Bu's hand and repeatedly addressed him as Brother Fengxian, treating him with utmost respect. Upon entering the rear hall, Wang Yun insisted on seating Lu Bu at the highest seat. Lu Bu quickly pretended to decline, saying, Your Excellency, Minister Situ, you are a senior court official, I am merely a servant in the Chancellor's residence. How could I possibly sit at the highest seat? Wang Yun waved his hand earnestly and replied, General, your words are mistaken. In these times of great turmoil, apart from you, the Supreme War God, there is no other hero. What I admire is not your position, but your unparalleled talent. Upon hearing this, Lu Bu's vanity was greatly satisfied. He felt as if he had ascended to the highest heavens, convinced that Wang Yun was his undisputed favorite. While attentively serving Lu Bu wine, Wang Yun switched to a mode of mutual praise, constantly extolling the virtues of Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu, calling Dong Zhuo the unparalleled leader in his field and Lu Bu the mightiest general under heaven. He asserted that the father and son's alliance would surely bring peace to the land and propel them to the pinnacle of success. Overwhelmed by the praise, Lu Bu drank cup after cup of fine wine, his face soon flushing crimson as he became utterly animated in conversation. Halfway through the drink, seeing that the wine was nearly ready, Wang Yun pretended to be tipsy, clapped his hands, and shouted loudly, Send for my child. Let him serve you a toast. Shortly afterward, two maids emerged carrying the meticulously dressed Tiao Chan. She wore a luxurious haute couture gown, with heavy makeup and a slender figure that made her look like a fairy stepping out of a painting. The moment she appeared, Lu Bu was stunned. His eyes fixed on her motionless, his mouth was so wide open it could fit an egg inside. He forgot to set down his wine cup, and saliva nearly streamed down his face as he murmured to himself, My God, how can there be such a beautiful girl in this world? This is truly a fairy descended from heaven. All the beauties I've seen before pale in comparison. Wang Yun watched Lu Bu's utterly incompetent expression and felt secretly pleased. With a smile, he said, General, this is my youngest daughter, Tiao Chan. I see you possess remarkable talent and command such prestige that I have specially brought her forward to offer you this cup of wine. After speaking, he gestured for Tiao Chan to approach. She walked lightly toward Lu Bu, slightly bending her knees, and gazed at him with those expressive eyes full of deep affection. In a soft, gentle voice she said, My daughter Tiao Chan has met you, General. Her voice was so tender it seemed to drip with warmth. Hearing it, Lu Bu felt his bones tremble. He took the wine cup and drank it in one gulp, yet his gaze remained fixed on Tiao Chan as if glued to her, eager to take her away immediately. Seizing the opportune moment, Wang Yun leaned close to Lu Bu's ear and whispered a bait, General, I believe you and my daughter are a perfect match, a truly ideal couple. If you have no objections, I shall offer her in marriage as your principal wife. What do you think? Upon hearing this, Lu Bu jumped up from his chair on the spot, so excited that he nearly overturned the table. He quickly gripped Wang Yun's hand tightly and shouted loudly, Is this true? Lord Situ, are you telling the truth? If I may marry Miss Tiao Chan, I, Lu Bu, will serve you with utmost devotion, working tirelessly for you wherever you command me. Wherever you send me, I will go, wherever you task me with a duty, I will perform it without hesitation. Whoever dares touch a single hair on your head, I will be the first to fight them to the death. Wang Yun nodded with a smile, displaying the demeanor of a benevolent father. General, rest assured, I keep my word and will never engage in false propaganda. In a few days, on an auspicious day, I will escort Tiao Chan to your residence so you may hold your wedding ceremony and celebrate a grand, historic wedding. Lu Bu was overjoyed, feeling that his life had reached its climax. He drank several more cups in succession until he was thoroughly intoxicated before reluctantly departing Wang Yun's residence. Before leaving, he turned back several times, fearing that once he went, his beautiful bride, who had descended from heaven, might flee. As soon as Lu Bu had left, Wang Yin immediately changed his expression. He stroked his beard and thought to himself, the first phase, the angel round of financing, has been secured. Next, I must set a trap for that old scoundrel Dong Zhuo. The next day at court, seizing the moment when Dong Zhuo was in a good mood, Wang Yin approached him and began his persuasion. Your Excellency is a pillar of the state. My humble servant has a virtuous daughter named Diao Chan, who possesses considerable beauty and some knowledge of music and dance. If your Excellency does not object, I would be honored to present her to your residence to serve you personally. What is your Excellency's opinion? Dong Zhuo was inherently lustful. Upon hearing of the exquisite beauty, his green eyes lit up instantly, and he exclaimed, Excellent! Excellent! Minister Wang Situ, you are truly considerate. Have her come so I can inspect her. Wang Yin smiled mysteriously and said, Grand Tutor, don't worry, I've already prepared a full SPA treatment and styling for her. A dedicated vehicle will deliver her to your residence tonight. I guarantee you'll be satisfied, and she'll receive an absolute 5-star rating. Upon hearing this, Dong Zhuo was overjoyed. He clapped his hands and laughed heartily, saying, Excellent! Excellent! Minister Wang Situ is indeed a sensible man, who deeply resonates with me. With a single gesture, he ordered gold, silver, and silk fabrics to be brought and lavishly rewarded Wang Yin, while secretly delightedly planning his own evening of pleasure. That evening, Wang Yin dressed Diao Chan in dazzling attire and transported her to the Grand Tutor's residence in a luxurious carriage. The moment Dong Zhuo saw her, his soul was captivated, his eyes widened like copper bells, and he nearly drooled, exclaiming repeatedly, How stunning! She's truly a fairy descended from heaven. Minister Wang Situ, you truly understand my heart's desires. She is indeed my most trusted confidant. Diao Chan played along, deliberately mimicking a shy little rabbit with her head bowed and gentle demeanor, which left Dong Zhuo utterly delighted. He immediately kept her by his side and issued a strict order: no one was to disturb their private moment together. From then on, Dong Zhuo devoted himself entirely to indulging in pleasure with Diao Chan, completely neglecting state affairs and even skipping morning court sessions. Such absurd behavior was a clear result of the fox spirit having seized his soul. He was utterly deranged. All the major affairs of the imperial court were entrusted to Lu Bu and other ministers. Although Lu Bu felt deeply resentful, he could only suppress his anger and remain silent. After all, Dong Zhuo was his adoptive father and held military power, while he was merely a low-ranking official. A few days later, Lu Bu finally could no longer contain his agitation. He recalled how Wang Yin had solemnly vowed to betroth Diao Chan to him, only for Dong Zhuo to seize her and make her the exclusive favorite of the Grand Tutor. This was nothing short of a blatant swindle. Filled with anger and urgency, he secretly slipped into Wang Yin's residence to demand an explanation. Upon seeing Wang Yin, Lu Bu demanded angrily, Grand Minister Situ, didn't you promise to marry Miss Diao Chan to me? How has she now become the Grand Tutor's beloved? Are you treating me, Lu Bu, like a monkey? Wang Yin had long anticipated Lu Bu's move. Immediately adopting an expression even moreish than Douyi's, he took Lu Bu's hand and began to dramatize his plight, tears streaming down his face. General, you have truly wrongfully accused this old man. After our marriage contract was signed, I was preparing a carriage to escort Diao Chan to your residence for the wedding when, unexpectedly, Cheng Yao Jin appeared on the scene. Grand Tutor Cheng, having heard of Diao Chan's beauty, sent men to forcibly demand her hand in marriage. Grand Tutor Dong commands a vast army. His decisions of life and death rest entirely in his hands. How could I, a mere low-ranking official, dare resist him? If I refused, my entire family would face immediate destruction. I had no choice but to reluctantly send her off. I was forced to do this against my will, and my suffering is beyond words. General, I am truly sorry, it was my own incompetence. Upon hearing this, Lu Bu's anger instantly subsided by half. He was fully aware that Dong Zhuo wielded immense power, and Wang Yin truly dared not act rashly. Lu Bu sighed helplessly, alas, since the Grand Tutor seized it by force, there's nothing I can do but accept my fate. Reading Lu Bu's expression and understanding his resentment, Wang Yin seized the opportunity to provoke him with words, General, you shouldn't speak like that. Although the Grand Tutor is your adoptive father, he shouldn't bully others so brutally. He knew full well that Diao Chan was your fiancée yet still forcibly took her from you. This is utterly outrageous. Does the Grand Tutor consider your world-shaking divine might insignificant? How could you endure such humiliation? Lu Bu was already feeling uneasy inside. Provoked by Wang Yun's words, he flew into a rage instantly. His eyes reddened as he roared, "That old man! How dare he steal my woman? I'll never let him off." Wang Yun quickly held him back and whispered, "General, don't act impulsively. Going after him now would be like hitting a rock with an egg. It's better if you endure for a while and find an opportunity to meet Tiao Chan. Perhaps there's still a chance." Lu Bu found this reasonable, nodded, and left in a fit of anger, secretly swearing, "Dong Zhuo, wait for me, I will settle this score with you sooner or later." From then on, Lu Bu began devising ways to stake out positions. One day, Dong Zhuo, having worked late with Tiao Chan the previous night, couldn't get out of bed in the morning and took sick leave, leaving Lu Bu to guard the residence. Seizing the opportunity, Lu Bu immediately switched to stealth mode and slipped into the backyard. Tiao Chan had already waited in the garden according to Wang Yun's plan. Upon seeing Lu Bu, she threw herself into his arms, crying bitterly and saying, "General, I miss you so much. When I was sent to the Grand Tutor's residence that day, it was entirely forced. I've always loved you. That old scoundrel doesn't understand me at all. I'm merely his trophy." Lu Bu embraced Tiao Chan with both compassion and fury, immediately declaring his pledge, "Rest assured. I, Lu Bu, swear to find a way to rescue you from this suffering and elope together to the ends of the earth." Her eyes glistened as tears streamed down like pearls falling from a broken string. She gently bit her vermilion lips and said in a trembling voice, "How could I not know of your profound affection for me? Whenever I think of your valor and prowess, I feel truly blessed in this life. Yet your Majesty's power is overwhelming. My fate is as precarious as floating duckweed, trapped within this mansion's prison, enduring torment day and night. I only hope that in my next life we may repay your kindness by forming an alliance." But that treacherous Grand Tutor wielded immense influence. He would never let us escape. Rather than endure humiliation, she declared, "I'd rather crash into this pillar than serve that wretched old man again." With those words, she poised herself to collide against the adjacent pillar, a performance worthy of an Oscar-winning actress. Lu Bu was terrified and immediately held her back firmly. "Candan, don't act impulsively. Don't do anything foolish. Give me some time, I'll explain everything." Tiao Chan then collapsed softly into Lu Bu's arms. Her fragrant shoulders trembled slightly as tears soaked her robe. Secretly, she pondered. Lord Situ's ingenious series of schemes are truly unfathomable. Although Lu Fengxian possesses unparalleled martial skills, he is ultimately merely a brave but unwise warrior, who has now fallen completely into my hands. Dong Zhuo woke up due to an urgent need to use the restroom. He reached out to touch his side and found it completely empty. His heart sank suddenly. He realized something grave had happened. Immediately, he donned his clothes, got up, and followed the trail all the way to the Fengyi Pavilion in the rear garden. Looking up, he saw Lu Bu and Tiao Chan holding hands and embracing tightly, their ears pressed together, a scene that looked utterly inseparable. It was a vivid example of the tragic drama where a son treats his father like a son-in-law and his concubine like a daughter-in-law. Dong Zhuo was instantly consumed by rage. He felt his blood surge and his whole body tremble violently. On the spot, he roared like thunder, "Lu Bu, you scoundrel! How dare you molest my beloved concubine? You have deceived me so severely. How dare you act against me behind my back? Do you intend to usurp my throne or defile me?" When Lu Bu heard the thunderous roar, he was so terrified that he nearly died on the spot. He immediately released Tiao Chan and fled at full speed. Enraged, Dong Zhuo grabbed the Fangtian halberd that Lu Bu had dropped nearby and hurled it with all his might. The halberd grazed Lu Bu's scalp and slammed into a tree with a loud thud, sending him fleeing from the Grand Tutor's residence in panic. Dong Zhuo surveyed the empty courtyard and glanced at Tiao Chan beside him, about to unleash his fury. But Tiao Chan reacted swiftly. She knelt down and wept bitterly, her voice trembling like rain-drenched pear blossoms. "Grand Tutor! You've wrongfully accused me. It's Lu Bu, that beast. While you were sleeping, he tried to harm me. I resisted to the death and struggled desperately, but fortunately, you appeared in time to save my life." Dong Zhuo, a man obsessed with beauty and quick to react, saw the intensity in her tears and his anger subsided instantly. He helped Tiao Chan to her feet and comforted her affectionately. "My darling, don't be afraid, I'm here. I'll deal with that traitorous son Lu Bu sooner or later." Wang Yun saw that the chain strategy had completely severed ties between Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu, this so-called artificial father-son duo, and realized this was the perfect moment to deliver the decisive blow. He deliberately summoned Lu Bu into a secret chamber and, while he was still under the influence of alcohol, employed a tactful and persuasive approach to provoke him. Noticing Lu Bu's worried expression, Wang Yin first adopted a grave tone and began threatening, "Feng Xian, your current situation is truly on the brink of collapse. The Grand Tutor already knows about your affair with Tiao Chan. He now regards you as if you were his father's killer. Wandering around under his watch every day is tantamount to putting your head on your hip. You could fall flat on your face at any moment." Upon hearing this, Lu Bu broke out in cold sweat instantly and hurriedly clasped his hands in supplication. "Lord Situ, what should I do? Please show me a clear path forward." Wang Yun smiled faintly and, revealing his ultimate strategy, declared, "At this point, the only way out is to eliminate Dong Zhuo. Once this traitor is eliminated, Tiao Chan will return safely to Zhao and remain by your side forever. The entire power of the court will then be in your hands. At that time, you will have achieved the unparalleled feat of restoring the Han dynasty, a deed that will be recorded in history and revered by all people. Such a monumental undertaking, why not embrace it?" Though Lu Bu was tempted, he ultimately could not overcome the ethical barrier in his heart. He hesitated and said, "But, he is after all my adoptive father. If I act rashly, wouldn't I earn the eternal stigma of killing one's father for personal gain? When the world despises me as ungrateful, how would I face it?" Hearing this, Wang Yin nearly rolled his eyes, thinking, "When you killed Ding Yuan back then, why didn't you show such moral hesitation?" Yet his expression remained dignified, delivering a scathing rebuke to Lu Bu, "Your words are mistaken. You bear the surname Lu, while the Grand Tutor bears the surname Dong. We are not blood relatives. The title father and son is merely a superficial label to deceive others. Moreover, when that old villain stood before the Fengyi Pavilion brandishing his halberd intent on killing you, did he ever consider any familial bond? In such a critical moment, would you still harbor illusions about this wolf-like ruler seeking your life, cultivating a tiger to pose a threat?" Next, Wang Yin continued, "Dong Zhuo has disrupted the imperial administration and long been a common enemy of the entire realm. Killing him is a righteous act of eliminating a scourge for the people and fulfilling the will of heaven. At that time, all the citizens of Chang'an will cheer you on fervently. Who would dare utter a single negative word about you?" These words pushed PUA and empty promises to their extreme. Lu Bu instantly felt his vital energy channels unblocked and the moral shackles in his heart shattered. He slapped his thigh forcefully, gritted his teeth, and roared, "Situ's words have enlightened me. This old villain has wronged us too severely. I'm determined to kill him and avenge our past humiliation." Seeing Lu Bu finally weakened by deception, Wang Yin suppressed his inner joy, gripped his hand tightly, and said affectionately, "General, you're wise. Let's coordinate inside and out and send Grand Tutor Dong to receive his ultimate punishment." That night, Wang Yin had already set up a meticulous trap on both sides of the palace gates, awaiting only the arrival of Dong Zhuo, the traitor who had brought chaos to the land, to fall into its snare. Under the pretext of discussing the imperial abdication ceremony, Lu Bu lured Dong Zhuo into the palace. Believing that this defiant and untamable tiger had finally been subdued, Dong Zhuo led a few attendants and strode confidently down this path leading to death. As soon as he entered the north gate, the ambush troops armed with blades and axes rushed out instantly. Shocked, Dong Zhuo instinctively activated his summoning ability and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Where's my son Feng Xian?" To everyone's surprise, Yu Bu emerged from the crowd holding his Feng Tian halberd with a blank expression and said coldly, "Grand Tutor, you always treated me like grass. When I threw my halberd at you from Fengyi Pavilion, did you even consider any father-son bond? Now that disaster has struck, do you still expect me to die for you? Our bond of loyalty is now severed. The one standing before you today is not your adopted son, but Lu Fengxian, dispatched by imperial decree to suppress the rebels." Before he could finish speaking, the halberd in his hand shot out like lightning, piercing Dong Zhuo's chest directly. The powerful minister Dong Zhuo didn't even have time to deliver his final words. He collapsed on the spot, meeting his end without delay. Upon Dong Zhuo's death, Lu Bu immediately ordered his corpse dragged through the bustling marketplace for public display. When the citizens of Chang'an learned that this tyrant, who had long dominated the server and disrupted court affairs, had finally fallen, they erupted in jubilation, flooding the streets to celebrate with champagne. Some even threw rotten eggs and decaying vegetable leaves onto the corpse, venting years of pent-up resentment. Witnessing this scene, Wang Yun let out a deep sigh, thinking, finally, this cancer that disrupted the game's balance has been eradicated. The Great Han Dynasty version can finally be updated. Meanwhile, Lu Bu successfully won back his beloved, embracing Diao Chan with beaming joy, and thought to himself, from now on, Chang'an will be under my absolute control, no one will ever stand in my way again. However, Lu Bu did not anticipate that although Dong Zhuo was dead, his subordinates Li Ju and Guisi were unwilling to accept defeat. They gathered Dong Zhuo's former followers, led a large army, and attacked Chang'an in an attempt to avenge him. The city of Chang'an fell into renewed chaos. Wang Yun was killed during the conflict. Despite Lu Bu's bravery, he was outnumbered and ultimately had to flee Chang'an with Diao Chan, wandering aimlessly thereafter. The battle of the 8th round, to put it bluntly, was a complete intellectual domination. Wang Yun, this cunning old fox, spared not a single soldier and precisely exploited the sexual weaknesses of Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. Through a series of interconnected strategies, he effortlessly manipulated these two arrogant figures at his mercy. Consider Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. One was insatiable and brutal by nature, while the other possessed formidable physical strength but a simple mind. In turbulent times, brute force alone is insufficient, nor is merely having a good appearance, it is intelligence that ensures survival. Without sufficient intelligence, one will inevitably be used as a pawn, ultimately dying without even knowing how, reduced to a stepping stone for others. This is the harsh law of survival. Well, that concludes this lesson. Next time, let's see how Lu Bu, the servant of 3 families, after being kicked out of Chang'an, wandered about like a headless fly, encountering one failure after another and pulling off a series of absurd antics that left people both amused and amused. Stay alert, I'll break it down next time.